Okay, we're ready.
Okay, so hello everyone. This is Alice Chen, or some of my colleagues call me like Young Chen. Yeah, they're both in my names. So I came from North Carolina State University, and I graduate from University of Missouri, Columbia. Today I'm going to talk about organization public relationships in the era of artificial intelligence. So before the topic, I want to introduce myself a little bit. As you can see from the slide, there are three interest areas. One is relationship management, since this is very, very relevant with the topic today. And second is crisis communication. I call myself crisis queen because in the past, I have done so many relevant research with crisis communication. And the third one is about artificial intelligence. So in the past, my collaborators and we have done quite a lot of research about how AI might be applied for communication, especially with consumers. So today, I really cherish this wonderful opportunity that I can share those concepts and issues, and also talk about this OPR in the era of artificial intelligence with all of you. And during my talk, if you have any questions, just feel free to raise your virtual hands so that I can see it, and then I'm going to stop and interact with you. So Michael, should we get started?
Yeah, let's get started.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so at the beginning of the talk, I want to give you an agenda, right, for this talk. There are lots of like letters there, right? You see, yeah, is it like interesting? We're going to talk about OPR and OPR plus AI and the COPR and the Q&A. Yeah, I love those letters. Those are vivid, and I want to interact with you about this important like letters and numbers there. So before my talk, I also want to run a little survey with you, okay? Like, how many of you have ever used artificial intelligence tools in your daily life? Like, can you ever thought one? Anyone? Yes, me too. Yes, you raise your hands. Yes.
Yeah, I'm using, I had to do some editing actually for Maureen for an article. and I use Grammarly, properly used it to go through and identify every typo and stuff. I found its rewording of sentences isn't as good as what you would say in your own voice, but it's a valuable editing tool. And and now with chat, I've been using, seeing chat's capabilities, and it seems to hallucinate more times than it gets things right. But you can still use it to try and, find, like do an annotated bibliography to sort of fast track, a little exploration of a particular research field. So yeah, I'm using AI. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your wonderful sharing. Maybe another one? Maybe anyone wants to share their experience?
I think everyone is using AI, because even not noting this. For example, if you have smartphone, you are using AI anyway. If you have a car, you have geolocation, which is actually powered by artificial intelligence. So it's simply impossible to avoid.
Yeah, see how important this topic is. Yeah, from our participants, it looks like we cannot leave AI anymore. It's in our everyday life. Okay, perfect. So let me continue the conversation here, okay? And I want to talk more about concept, or maybe how we define OPR, how we define AI, and then we move step by step. Okay, we introduce the concepts, and also we think about how they are related and how they have been researched, and what we can do in the future, right, to do more significant research. So at the beginning, right, remember the first thing on our agenda today is about OPR. So organization public relationships. So who can tell me what is OPR in your minds? Anyone? Anyone? We just need one try, maybe. Yes. Anyone you still maybe remember it from an old textbook? Anyone?
I'll just note that so OPR stands for Organization to Public Relationships. And when I started out in the field, I did not know what OPR really was. And Maureen used to tell me that, you know, you need to read more, you don't understand it. But I did understand it better as the full concept. Like the idea of organization to public relationships is sort of self-explanatory. But the idea of OPR is sort of an arcane area, you know, that has its own assumptions and ideas. And so I would say that's one of the things. I think it's used both ways too. I think there are people who talk about OPR, and then there are people talking about organization to public relationships, and they don't necessarily mean exactly the same thing.
Exactly. Okay, great input, Michael. Next, I want to show you something. You know, have you ever seen how the robot think about what is OPI? Okay, so let us say I took a screenshot. I asked ChatGPT. Have you ever tried it? Right?
I always do that.
Yes, it's a new developed tool from OpenAI, and now they have developed the ChatGPT 4, right? So it's even itself is evolving. So let us briefly have a look at how the ChatGPT, a robot, right, was talking about OPR. So it said OPR is talk about interaction, exchange between the organization and the publics. And the goal of OPI is to build and maintain mutual understanding and trust between organization and its publics. So it looks like the robot learned a lot from our previous literature, right? So on the other side of the slide, I'm showing you something is from an accurate reference, right? Because every time when you ask a robot something, they never give you accurate reference. I heard like even there's a reference there, it's not accurate. It even has been manipulated, right? But lucky that we still have scholars and serious scholars. We did lots of, in the past decades, it's a very important concept in the field of public relations. So it's a key concept in public relations, and positive OPR can help to build positive word of mouth, for example. And I want to also quote a citation from Cheng and Taylor, right? In 2002. They said we should have a theoretical shift from the PR reflecting an emphasis on manager communication to a tool for negotiation relationship. So you can see how important this concept for public relations, right? Or focusing and talking more about how we can build or maintain a relationship in the field of public relations. And also further, I want to tell you that we should feel lucky that we still cherish the scholarship a lot. And in the past, we saw many fabulous review work about OPR. So actually, I think the ChatGPT may never construct one, but from our scholars, we have, for example, diversified approaches about OPR. So next, I'm going to show you this slide. You can also get this from one of my recent publications. Is about a review of OPR. So it's based on a review of past articles from around 156 of them. It's published on PR Review. So from this article, it gives you a synthesis about what's happening for OPR in the field of PR. So next, I'm going to briefly talk about the 4 domains of OPR in the field. And then we're going to talk further about the concepts and the issues there. So the first one I want to introduce is about lots of scholars, they talk about the outcomes of OPR. So for example, they define the OPR as the state that exists between the organization and its public. in which the actions of either side influence the attitude and behavior of the other side. So if you get the chance to review a similar article in this research focus, you're going to notice that they mainly use survey, and then they use some measurement of OPR, like control mutuality or network of openness involvement. They try to understand their relationship qualities, right? Like after lots of communication activities, for example, how those communication outcomes may be achieved. So this is one dimension I want to introduce. And the other dimension is called the antecedents OPR. So instead of focusing on the outcomes of relationships, those scholars, when they study the OPR, they focus on the antecedents, such as maintenance strategy or conflict strategy or crisis response. So their focus is about how those antecedents, such as online interactivity, would influence the communication, the relationship. So if you look at this approach, is that the survey is still the dominant method, and there are lots of measurement is still about trust, commitment, but they are more interested about how those antecedents play the role and influence the communication qualities. So the other dimension I want to briefly introduce here is about the mediation of OPR. So for example, the Cheng and Yang study, I think it's the one earlier in 2010, they talk about how public awareness, for example, influence the relationship between organization and publics, and how those relationships further influence the public intention of supportive behavior for the organization. So if you look at this type of research, OPR actually served as the mediator between the antecedents and outcomes. And the other dimension I want to mention here is about a dynamic approach of the examining the information flow between organization and publics. So this approach is the one that I focus on in the recent years. Like we want to use more about content analysis to extend the area to focus on the relationship itself. So instead of focus on the outcomes or antecedents, we want to really to understand the changes and the dynamic features of the process of OPR itself. So this is the first one. And the last one is about the structure of OPR. So if you got the chance to read Taylor and also Yang and Taylor's work, you're going to notice that they're building a new approach using the social network analysis. So this approach, their viewing of OPR is an ecological approach of analyzing the organizational-centric social network relationship with multiple publics in multiple channels at one time. It's also a very, very important one and interesting one, because now we're not looking at the organization and a specific public. We're looking at the organizational-centric social network relationships at one time. So that's the 5th one I want to briefly introduce you so that you have something in your minds, right? If you have never learned about OPR before, and now you learn that, okay, OPR has 5 approaches. Next, I want to talk about is that how AI, right? In this lecture, our focus is about AI. So how AI influence OPR remains unknown, right? That's the things like we want to explain and explore together. So before we go into this question, I think we need to, we want to understand the why, right? Why AI, some of you share their feeling is that AI is everywhere, right? But what is AI? And why OPR and AI is important to we should pay attention to it. So I want to show you this very recent graph and also the data from it. As you can see from this presentation, from this slide, you see like by 2025, right? The global AI revenue forecast, especially in the field of content distribution on social media. So it's this area. It's going to reach by $3,564 million. So everyone in this class today, right? You are totally right. AI is not far away. AI has already been our life. And by forecasting, it's even more important and significant. And if we look at the penetration of AI skills by country, you'll notice that right now, why the US and China and India, right, they're so interested about AI tools, right? There are so many talents, they are working for this area, and the countries are also, they want to attract those, right, those fields that, those talents they know about this field. And further, if we look at the graph, right, at the right side of the picture, let us look at it a little closer, right? We look at here is talk about organizations deploying AI by functional areas. And look at the first and the second one, right? Actually, we should feel lucky and honored to be on the top two, right? We are the communication practitioner and the scholars. So you can see that like the numbers here is like 71, right? 71% is external communication. And also 66% is customer relation interaction about chatbots. So from the picture, from the data, or also from our daily experience, right? You can see like it's such an important topic. And as scholars and practitioners, we should pay more attention for OPR and AI for our agenda. So the next slide I want to discuss with you is that we feel like AI is every day in our life, but what is AI, right? So I want to use this opportunity to introduce it a little bit to learn together with all of you. So look at the graph here, right? Those circles, right? Circle by circle, I love it. So if you look at it, you're going to notice that artificial intelligence, AI, actually is a general term. It talks about the ability for a computer to think and learn. So if people talk about AI, right, it could be a very umbrella term. It's very broad. It's just talk about how we use computers to mimic the human behavior. But how about the other two words called machine learning and deep learning, right? So machine learning, from the picture you can see, right, it is considered as a subset of AI technology, which use statistical methods.
Just a second. We lost connection if we're the only ones. If we're the only ones, no problem. But if everybody else lost connection, we should maybe backtrack.
Okay, absolutely. So should I start from the introduction of AI again?
Just think, was it just Michael and me, or did everybody get kicked out?
I heard her throughout.
Okay.
I think I'm okay.
Okay, so it was probably
I'm okay.
All right, then it was just us.
Yeah, no worries. It's just maybe if you could, I don't know if it kept recording. It probably did because it came back and said it was recording. So we should be fine. I mean, I can edit, you know, I'll edit out this.
Yeah, I can repeat again, right? We are humans and don't worry about technology.
The repetition might be okay because, you know, one, this is really important what you're setting the foundation here. And second, I mean, I don't mind if you're listening to a repeat, if that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I just want to introduce AI again is because we talk about AI everyday life, but really, right, we want to learn more about what the definition is. So AI actually is a very umbrella term, as you can see from the graph, right? It is on the external side of the circle. So it's a very broad term to talk about the ability for a computer to think and learn. So it refers to any tactic which enables computers to mimic human being. And the other term within the umbrella of AI, it's called machine learning, right? So that's actually the second layer from the picture, the blue layer. So it's a subset of AI technology which use statistical methods to enable machines to improve with experience. And the third one, right, the red one, the pinky red one is called deep learning. So that is another subset of machine learning, right? So we say it's layer by layer, right? So deep learning is about subset of machine learning, which make the computation of multi-layer neural networks feasible. So now I guess the question mark emerge in your minds, right? Like Dr. Cheng, what is neural network, right? So I want to explain a little further and also give you an example. So let us see this picture, right? See this slide. So neural networks is a deep learning requires artificial neural networks that are similar to biological neural networks in our humans. So these networks have in multiple layers that are connected and communicate with each other. So deep learning is a subset of machine learning, but it's a higher advanced one, right? So if we look at the example here, right, like if we want to ask the AI to identify it's a car or not, right? So we give the computer some input about the car. If it's machine learning, we still need the human to help with feature extraction. So for example, we're going to tell the computer like the color of the car, right? Maybe it's a Tesla white one, right? Maybe it's a model. The model is a very advanced one, right? So we need to tell the computer about the feature extraction, and then the machine learning is going to use statistical model to classify those features, and then they're going to generate the output about car or not car. However, if we use artificial neural network, right? Remember that I just talked about is that because it's like a human networks, human mind. So lots of things are networked together. So the computers can do the feature extraction and classification by itself. So it's a more like advanced one. That's how we call deep learning. So if we look at again this graph, we're going to learn that AI is a broad term, right? And we have machine learning as a subset of AI as a basic level. We also have deep learning as a more advanced one of machine learning, right? So this is about AI and machine learning and deep learning, those basic ideas, concepts about this. And next, I want to share about the features of AI, right? Lots of us said, okay, I know AI because it's everything in my life, right? Like my mother was in China and she told me like lots of time they just do the face scan to go to their car, right? Or pay for something. So facial recognition is also a feature of AI. And also some computer science scholars, right? They do lots of research or practice about quantum computing or cloud computing, right? Or automated tasks, right? Like maybe some of you, I think Michu talk about the Grammarly, right? I think it's an automatically correction of the grammar for us, right? So there are lots of features of AI, but something I want to share with you is that even AI has so many functions. We're still in the stage of weak AI. So we are far away from the strong AI or like the superpower intelligence in the future, and it's still evolving now. So we're going to talk maybe some of them when we go to the end of the lecture. We can discuss about the future of AI. But here, something I want to call your attention again is about the chatbots. It's one area with rapid growth, especially chatbots is the area that has been applied to our field a lot, especially in digital relation management, digital PR, and digital customer service. So I want to use this precious opportunity to talk with you more about chatbots, right? There are two types of chatbots. One is based on a set of rules. So it's like the chatbots is really like a box. Every step is by step, right? If you tell, could you tell me this, yes or no? If you choose yes, it goes to another step. So this is based on like a decision tree chatbot. It's very like basic, something we call chatbots based on set of rules. It's like a weather report bots, right? It's very direct. It's very based on decision tree, step by step. However, here, something I want to share more with you is about AI-powered chatbots. So what is AI-powered chatbots? Think based on their letters and meanings there, it means like it's probably more powerful, right, than the set of rules bots, because this one, it can understand not only the basic commands, but also like some of your human language, right? If you look at the chats on the right side of the slide, right? This customer was asking about, I want to check my order status. So the person was actually talking human language. And then the bots understand this language and try to ask, could you tell me the order number, right? And the person asked, where can I find it? And then the person and the bot responded like, you can find order ID in your SMS inbox. So this one is the bot we want to discuss. This is like a more clever, right? It's a clever box, not those like very basic one, depending on those decision trees, right? So this is the one, this is the background for us to discuss about AI chatbots. So next, I want to also share our bots application, right, in their digital campaign, right? As PR scholar, we talk a lot about AI, right? But what is exactly a case or application in our field? I want to give you more background about this. So this is like a Facebook page from the Labour Party in UK, right? So as you can see from the slide, there's also a green box, right? It shows you like some like a bot introduction, right? It talks about, so when you, for example, you go to this one, right? You're going to see some talks there. It's not sure because on my side it's blocked, but I can like read it for you. It's like, it talks about, so if you are the Facebook user, right? I guess some of you run into some advertisement when you are browsing on your webpage, right? So this is actually comes from one of the ads. So when you click it, when you click start, right? The box said like, it said when you tap get started, the Labour Party will see your public information. What does it mean, right? It means that your Facebook profile, like your personal data, like your gender, right? If you put it there on the Facebook, your working location or your likes, we're going to be, or your age are going to be shared with the Labour Party as the Facebook page. So this is an example to show you that actually the Labour Party was using such bot for a political campaign to collect their information about their potential voters. And then the data is fed into algorithms, driving the next set of advertising or even to help shape policy decision and the method of persuasion. So the communication team can also utilize such data for better outcomes. So you see that this entire campaign can be advised and supported by AI because they use the AI to gather the data and also can use the AI to analyze the patterns there and then use such pattern to help them to make decisions and how to reach better their like public, their potential voters. So this is like a another example like I want to share with you. Yes, we saw a hands, virtual hands there. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt. I just want to know, so I have an assortment of questions about different things we've been talking about up till now, and I'm writing them down as I always do. But do you prefer to wait until the end, or do you prefer to stop and discuss things as we go? What's your preference?
I'm fine. Yeah. Yeah. If you have
I think
some,
so finish it. I think we let her to finish the presentation and then we will have a discussion. So we have the big picture of the whole picture of this
Sure.
presentation.
okay, sure. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to continue. Okay. But I definitely will pay all attention for your questions, and you can also put it in the chat so that I can read it later. So based on the background, those concepts and the examples I'm giving you, hope like you now understand better about the background I'm talking about. So next, I want to share with you some of my very recent studies with my collaborators. And also it helps to answer the questions I put in the abstract, right? What kind of AI characteristics were driving people to utilize those brands and organizational AI tools, and how such interaction were influencing the OPR, the customer brand relationship or organizational public relationship. And also I'm going to introduce another interesting concept later. So let us look at this model first, right? I know like lots of you come from a quality background, so I'm going to elaborate more about this research using a narrative way. So as you can see, on the left side of the graph, there's a term called CME. It means the chatbot marketing efforts. So when we're doing this study, we actually give the people a list of the top 30 brands in the United States that have used chatbots before or now. They use the chatbots to communicate with their customers for their daily practice. So we use this as the background, and then we ask the consumers their perception about the usage of chatbots, and also their perception about the brands that have used the bots to communicate with them. So as you can see from the table, actually these factors called interaction, information, accessibility, entertainment, customization here are the 5 components of the chatbot marketing efforts. So from this research, we try to understand that how customers are attractive, right? They are attracted by different reasons, like they want to engage with the bots from their brands. So for example, one of it is called like customization, right? Like I feel using these chatbots and I can like get or meet my personal needs, or I can get my complaint, right, addressed directly and immediately. And also as I mentioned, like it gives a timely response, right? Like for my personal experience with the chatbots, it's like if I call the customer service, right, or call the brands to resolve the issue, sometimes it took like 20 minutes to be transferred to the right person. But if I talk or chat with the bots, sometimes I can easily address the issue and also transfer to the right agent to talk. So we use this as a framework, and then we did a study with 1,072 customers, and we find that to build a relationship with the customers, or even maintain a good relationship with them, the most important mediator here, as you can see from the model, is about the communication quality. So we use the credibility, accuracy, and the competence as the 3 dimensions to examine the communication quality. So we find that actually when the chatbots provide those good features, right, it also depends how good quality it is. So if it needs the good, credible, accurate, competent service standard. And then we find that it can help the brand to build a more positive relationship. So this is from one of the research. And the other research I want to introduce here is also about a recent one. It's about how AI-driven chatbots impact the user experience. So from this one, as you can see, we try to specifically look at, right? If we see AI are driving people to use it, then what kind of characteristics, right? Or people are going to pay attention for what kind of important features of AI. So from this study, as you can see, right, among the 4 dimensions of it, like information, entertainment, media appeal, and social presence, we find that, for example, media appealing, right? So from the 1,064 customers, we find that media appealing, for example, chatbots can be accessible 24 hours, right? And also chatbots is so convenient, can be accessible anytime, anywhere. So we see like people are still, they value the chatbots is because of the media appealing. And also one of the dimensions is called social presence. So people like those human-like chatbots, right? So even they know that, okay, I love the convenience from the bots, but I still want them to be a little human-like, right? So this is also one of the findings from the recent study. And also another study the results I want to share with you is with my graduate students. We did a meta-analysis about AI characteristics and their application in different fields through a meta-analysis of 12 articles. And we find that another finding is that we find utilitarian gratification still has the strongest influence on user satisfaction. So it may help to learn, or from the results is that, so still like people value those functions of AI a lot, which can bring them values or satisfaction through the interaction. So next is another recent study. Still the context is about brand and customer, and it tells that another like 2 interesting dimensions of AI bots is about the responsiveness and the conversation tone. So from this, we can be relevant with the dialogic communication is that we find that the effects of responsiveness and a conversational tone in dialogic chatbot communication on customers, right? So lots of customers, they mention like they love the chatbots. It's very interactive. It's like a conversation, like in a very timely manner. So in this way, like it can further increase their engagement with the brands. Like they want to learn about what's happening there, or they want to share the information with the brand, with their friends, or even like advocate for such tools and brands, and co-developing as one very important dimension of social media engagement. So this is another study like I want to share with you about how these AI characteristics, right, that may influence the user experience and further like could influence the relationship between the organization and brands. So I want to stop here maybe to give a little discussion, and then we can move forward for another interesting sharing about mental health bots. Okay. Anyone wants to share their information or questions?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Dean, I think, right?
Okay. This question might be too early here, but is there any moral agency that this is a social actor, artificial intelligence, whether it's a human or whatever, but that it is assumed or that exists. Like when I talk to someone in any type of dyadic situation, I want to assume some type of moral agency. It might be bad, it might be good, it might be whatever, but that's very important component of this, whether they're making a hotel reservation and okay, is this the guy being straight with me, et cetera, or whatever. And a very polite talking AI bot, I don't have the same feeling toward it. And is there any evidence or any rationale that you could give me that would suggest that I could or would be able to develop a sense of the sentient being of this there? That's a very broad question, but that's what's kind of troubling me on this. Like, okay, it might be like an interpersonal discussion, like I said, dyadic discussion. I want to reserve a hotel room at such and such, but the guy could be lying to me. It could be any number of things. But this robot, I don't know how to interpret it. I framed it very poorly, but
Is
I think
so am I back?
Yeah, I can now I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can definitely talk about the human side of AI when we run into the topic about, for example, mental health chatbots. Yeah, we can talk more about the social presence of bots, but definitely like it's one important characteristic of AI is like lots of people prefer AI is because people sometimes are biased, but bots are not. Yeah, so when I run into some interviews with some customers, they even said like I like to talk with bots because it's not biased. And also it's quick, it's not like, So, and lots of them, they feel like it's fun to talk with bots rather than a human being. So that could be like an important dimension of AI bots.
Do you have age data correlated with that? Because I have exactly the same feeling as Dean. Well, the first question I ask is, are you a human? And if they say no, I don't want to continue the conversation because I don't trust the bot, because there's so much research that says people might like it, but they are no more trustworthy than human beings. We know that they're misogynistic and racist. It depends on how they were trained. And I'd much rather have a human being, but I would think that's younger people would be more comfortable with a bot than middle-aged or older people would be who want to talk to a human.
Yes, you're mentioning about trust. Yeah, we're going to discuss it a little bit. Yeah. So Shima, you raise your hands. Do you have any question? Thank you.
Yes, and besides, thank you so much for the broad overview you gave us about AI. Also, my comment is also very related to the human side of AI. So besides trust, for example, when I contact a political party or a community group, I would like to know about their members, their attitudes. I would like to know how they're like, what kind of people they are, if I share attitudes with them. On the other, also, I want them to see me as a person, not data. I would like them to say hi to me when they see me in the streets. So do you think like chatbots might seem like a wall between people in this context?
I think it depends on the context, right? So one situation, I think chatbots could be a good facilitator, for example, different customers have so many different issues, but chatbots can help to classify and track those issues and bring you to the right person. So for example, when I try to my mother's flight to Raleigh, to the US, Raleigh actually is late. So I need to change the ticket at the last minute. So actually I'm quite worried at that time. So if I call the customer service at that time, it could took like 20 minutes to be transferred. However, if I chat with the bot, like it quickly like know where the issue is, and then it quickly like bring me to a reliable agent. Yeah, so some of you, I saw the chats in the bot. It's talk about like how the bot and human are connected, right? So I would say like if in that situation, like I appreciate like the bot brings me to the right person very quickly. Yeah, it saves my time. Yeah. So we saw different hands there. Yes.
I think Dimitra was first, then Nika was next.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. It's interesting that just yesterday Elon Musk and several other public figures issued this open letter about postponing the development of AI. And what is interesting that they call for to postpone it and urge governments to control this, while the main threat might be from the side of governments, because if governments will have such excellent tool to control society, so it's very hard to predict what will be next, you know. What,
yes, exactly.
What the implication for our industry? What of these ideas and these calls? What's your reaction on this?
Yes, actually, it's within my slide. So yeah, I'm going to actually adjust it. Yeah, but some hint for you is that yeah, I think nothing is perfect, right? When you see the one side of the coin, you have to consider the other side, right? So definitely Elon Musk and those experts, they are submitting the petition now because they need a third party to regulate and monitor what's happening. So when in our field, when in the communication field, right, when we enjoy the beauty, like AI can help us to get the data and also help us to monitor what's happening, right? We enjoy the convenience and also efficiency from the data, from the AI, from the directions there. But on the other hand, we have to, I think I agree with those experts is that we have to monitor AI and also track the AI impact and its possible consequence to create the political chaos, for example, right? So especially with the emergency of ChatGPT, I guess lots of us have learned about it and use it for a while. So ChatGPT is one of the earliest platforms that has the inferential ability. So that's how we feel a little terrifying, right? Because it is so good with those human thinking, right? So I think we as a scholar have to also investigate the AI crisis or AI malfunctions, and also definitely AI monitoring at from a third party or government agency. From my perspective, is very important. Yeah, if it continues evolving and developing in the future. Thank you.
Nika, I think you were next.
Yes, first of all, thank you so much for this just great presentation and discussion. And so I wanted to kind of ask a little bit more about the moral component of it. And so my question is this: a lot of times when we engage AI, at least I feel, honey, mommy is in a meeting, 1 second. So let me get my thought together. But a lot of times when we engage AI, one of the things I see is that increasingly we have no choice, right? So we're not offered the choice frequently. Do you want to talk to the chatbot or not? And then oftentimes there are implications like you are not allowed to move forward if you don't accept the terms of AI. So whatever, if it's a product or if it's a service, whatever it is, you're not allowed to enjoy it or move forward. So there's certainly I think lots of questions around agency, how AI limits our agency as human beings, as it also shows and demonstrates more agency, becoming more powerful. So my question is, what role should PR play in this? Like, is it the corporate social responsibility angle? But how do I guess we manage some of these big moral questions, particularly the increase of AI agency and the lack of our agency to control or even remotely influence how we want to engage in it?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. I really
Oh, and I was
appreciate.
gonna say real quick, there's one more follow-up. I'm so sorry, but it's one of my favorite topics. But one other question I want to ask too, in terms from like a PR perspective, is because a lot of what you have here is focusing on the marketing and the sales piece, but how can then those marketing and like sales-driven communications by AI, right, complicate our ability as PR practitioners or scholars or whatever to engage in actual PR? Like, how does that challenge our ability to say, be persuasive, to advocate? So those are two questions. The more I get, and I guess they're both kind of moral questions, but now I'll be quiet.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah. I didn't finish my talk yet, but I already love so many insightful discussion here. Yeah, and as you mentioned, like I talk about something about marketing and commercial things, and you can see like, right, it's the trending there. we as the consumers, sometimes we cannot stop it. It's also the trending there because maybe their commercial company or brand, they already saw lots of benefits there. So once you find the business value there, it's data driven, and then we are one of the in the society, right? So some of you mentioned like we cannot avoid it. Yeah. So I think like we as the communication scholar or PR practitioners or scholars, I can share one of the recent study from the FAST is a quantitative one from nearly 3,000 European communication practitioners. They find that the current practice is still lacking a good understanding of AI. So yeah, we can see that the moral dimension of AI is so important, right? The practitioner is lacking their understanding about AI as a communication practitioner. And we as scholars also the PR part, right? Or the CSR part, right? How from the corporate social responsibility perspective, like not only just push the AI to us, but also take care of the risk and the moral dimension of AI, right? So yeah, also maybe take care of the disinformation or misinformation from the AI, right? So I have the other article actually talk about when corporate has a misinformation there, how the consumers feel about it and how they responded, and how the brands may react to such situation when their misinformation are exploded online. Yeah. So definitely, I think that's also I'm going to talk about is that my colleagues and I were going to like build a call for paper. Like we want to like call for more scholarship and examination about the critical AI approach, and also from the moral dimension. Yeah. And also I want to share my slide here is that from a quantitative approach, actually, from this model, you see like I have one dimension called privacy risk. Yeah, so we definitely like also check the box about not only the features of AI, but also the risk. So users mention like if they feel like their information are not fully protected or they feel their privacy has been exposed to the others, then they're not going to continue using such bots or AI developed tools. So definitely, yeah, it's also one of the things like when those designers, they develop the AI, they have to consider a lot about the privacy, about the risk using it. Yeah. So how about I know there are some hands there. It's such great section. But how about like I continue the lecture there, and then we wait for another time for discussion. Thank you for all of it. So as we have discussed some, right, like Michael asked about, marketing, right, or commercial, but how about AI for mental health, right? We know that it's such an important topic in the United States, and lots of my students, they are experiencing the mental health issue in the US campus. And also another relevant background here is about mass shooting, right? So we know that, this comes from one of my articles. So it's about AI-powered mental health chatbots. It's about communication action using bots and their engagement after mass shooting disaster. So the background here again is about shootings and mental health, right? So if you have lived in the US or now or before, you probably know that the deaths and injuries from mass shooting in the US actually deserves our attention. And if you know the recent news is that there are 3 children and 3 adults killed in shooting at Nashville Private Elementary School in March in 2023 in the United States. I mean, every time when I listen to such news, such sad news, right? So shootings have brought many mental health problems. It creates large number of injuries and negative outcomes in the society. So based on this background, we actually did a study about, right? I think it's more from a health perspective, is that if we use the bots, like voice bots, right? Like people use the bots to help to treat their mental health issue after the mass shooting. So we're using this one as the background and to do a study about how people are triggered to use such bots and how they use the bots to do the communicative action online to seek information, and how likely they have engaged with the mental health treatment issue. So next, I want to show you a video, and it briefly introduces you the bots application in the field of mental health. So let us enjoy the video now. Thank you.
Depression is like a dark box that you can't escape from. It costs patients their happiness and the US economy more than $210 billion each year. You're alone, you can't live life, you're trapped. But there are ways to get out of the box. We have treatments that work, but many of the more than 16 million Americans who suffer from depression lack access to these treatments. There's a critical shortage of mental health specialists, especially on the south side of Chicago. Right now, that shortage is being filled by primary care providers, who treat almost 75% of all cases of depression. But depression requires regular follow-up that many of these doctors don't have the resources to support. More than 6 billion people use text messaging and social media worldwide. And I want to harness the power of this trend to help primary care physicians and others provide better depression care. So meet DASB. DASB is a chatbot, a computer program that checks in with you about your emotions. It's like Apple's Siri or Amazon's Alexa. It sends you messages on Facebook, through text, or an app that your doctor prescribes. I've spent many late nights building DASB to test for this pilot award. And DASB is quite unique because it combines a natural chat interface with a cutting-edge depression test created by my collaborator, Robert Gibbons. His online test adapts to a patient's responses. This allows us to diagnose and measure depression severity in just 2 to 3 minutes, as well as a psychologist can do in 45 minutes. I've used this test on more than 1,000 patients, and I think it's the best tool out there. This project takes this technology out of the lab and places it into our patients' pockets.
We'll be able to have a validated measure applied to the patient on an everyday basis with the convenience of his cell phone and get those measures repeated daily. It will add a whole new level of accuracy to things that in the past were done with monthly or bi-weekly intervals in the office.
DASB will also check in regularly with patients and automatically detect changes in their emotions, sending that data to doctors in real time to optimize their care. These check-ins are as secure and as confidential as a typical doctor's visit. And with almost 80% of Americans using a smartphone, DASB can give people the mental health care they need whenever they need it.
Social media allows us a much more natural way of getting into the patient's routine. It's very accessible.
With this pilot award funding, I'll test DASB with patients to see if this new approach helps them achieve a faster remission than those who receive traditional care.
I believe this really will open up a new area in the evaluation of mood disorders. We'll advance much farther in the sense of providing the appropriate treatment to individuals and can translate into better quality of life for our patients.
Okay, so this is like a video, right, to show you like in the US how scientists, they are using the bots to help people to treat the mental health issue. So based on this background, we actually applied a very traditional PR theory, right, like the situation theory of problem solving from Kim and Gurnick, 2011. And also we like bring those dimensions from their extended parallel process model called ETPM model from health communication. So we are like based on this background, like draw the literature from interdiscipline. So we want to explore, right? If we look at this framework, is that we want to see what kind of motivation motivate US citizens, US residents, they use such bots to treat their mental health issues after mass shooting. And also when they are triggered to use, how they use the bots to seek information, for fan information and forward information. And also how such communicative action behavior is relevant with their online engagement behavior and offline engagement behavior. So when we examine the engagement behavior here is that we're asking them their real like engaging with the mental health issue in the past 12 months. So that's not something like intention, it's their real past engagement behavior. So based on such framework, we did another analysis with more than 1,000 US people, like people who live in the US location. And I want to share with you some important and exciting findings here is that we find on one hand, when people are triggered to use the bots because it's human-like, because they want it to be, they like it because it's very accessible, it's convenient, right? As we have discussed before. On the other dimension, because we borrow the concept about protection motivation here, right? So protection motivation here means that people want to use bots not only because they are triggered by their technological appealing features there, but also because they want to use bots is because they want to use the bots to help the others. So that is something we call protection motivations. So we find that these two dimensions of motivations actually are coming together to trigger the public to seek for fan and forward information online. And even more, we find that protective motivation is even like more important and significant than the UNG user gratification motivations. Yeah, and also we find that the more active they try to seek and for fan and forwarding those kind of information online about mental health, the more likely like they have done a lot in the past to engage on such mental health issues. So the implications from this article, from this research again, is to tell that in the era of artificial intelligence, right? Not only like we take care of those technological part, but we also consider the protection motivation because people still want to use the tech to support others. So the human side of using technology has been started here. that's something I want to share with you about these interesting findings. So this is about my recent research about AI and its application in different areas. So next I want to discuss is about the gaps in current research about OPR, and in the future what we can do, right? We have discussed a lot and about different dimension of AI and OPR, and there must something we can do, and we can do a lot, right? So one gaps I want to share with you is about in the past, especially like based on the very dominated the Grunic model, right? We talk about symmetrical communication, and it's based on the very idealized proposition that the organization and the publics, they want to come together and build the work for the mutual benefits, right? However, in the reality, when we observed so many wars, right, and so many conflicts in our daily life, we must notice that people sometimes, or with the organizations, rather than problem resolving, they want to seek conflicts, right? So how to tackle those negative organization-public relationships, right? Also, lots of time, there are multi-party relationships. So when, for example, when US-China, they are run into the intense relationship recently, right? It's because there are Taiwan or some other issue in between, right? So it's always like multi-party relationship. And also in lots of consequence, we consider also different types of publics, right? Like the challenging publics, the very active one, and also not so active publics, the followers, right? So there are also multiple publics, multi-party, we should consider when we examine the organization-public relationship. However, as I showed you, right, those 5 dimensions of OPR, we saw like from one of my reviews, it shows like there are only 12 articles from 156 articles, which is around 7% of it use those other methods rather than survey. So lots of articles in the field, they are using the survey to test the OPR. And it's dominated by the cross-sectional method, right? So we cannot track the dynamics of OPR, the changing of OPR. So next, I want to introduce you a concept that I developed in the past. Is about, there are already quite a few publications about it. It's called contingent organization public relationships. And also I want to introduce like what it is and how we can use AI tools, right? To combine AI technology and this concept together to help the organization and also the scholars to track those dynamic and changing relationships. So next, I want to share with you the concept briefly, right? It's not hard to understand. Actually, it's very understandable, is that you can look at the figure, right? I designed it. I love the designing and using the different colors and figures there. So you can see that it's built on 2 theoretical paradigms. One is the relationship management theory. It emphasizes the cooperation between organization and publics. The other one is developed by Cancer and Cameron, right? It's called contingent theory of accommodation. It emphasizes about the competition and the conflicts between organization and publics. So the COPR is based on these 2 theoretical bases, and it talk about like organization and publics. They're not seeking mutual benefits. They're not only seeking the mutual benefits, but also, right, in lots of circumstances, they seek for conflicts. There are lots of negative relationship between the parties. So they always consider their self-benefits first. And if it's possible, they may consider for mutual benefits. So as you can see, the COPR is trying to give you a more realistic picture about what's happening in the field, right? And it also gives you 6 dimensions ranging from the competing level, the competing mode, to the cooperating mode. So what are the other modes, right? Let us look at these interesting figures, right? I draw these little figures there, right? So if you look at the first one, it's very visual. You look at 2 people, right? They're fighting each other. They're like organization and the publics, they are posting those comments online, right? They're competing each other because their stances are so aggressive with each other toward the issue, right? On the other hand, that's a very like sweet moment, right? They want to build the benefits, mutual benefits. They're cooperating each other. So the capitulating one, for example, is one party was taking an aggressive stance while the other party was taking steps back, right? So that is the capitulating one. And evading one is when one people was playing the kung fu with the others, right? The other party actually stays neutral, like remains, like they don't want to like jump into the issue with you about this, right? So based on like the stances from each party, actually we based on the stances from each involved party, we can develop the 6 dimensions like I demonstrate here, which is competing, evading, capitulating, neutral, accommodating, and cooperating relationship. So this is based on, this is like a little coding here, right? Based on the content analysis. And the next, I want to briefly, right, demonstrate a picture like how we can use AI to use the content analysis and the media monitoring to track those dynamic relationship online. So the first step, it's also already being published in one of the book chapter, right? From the Handbook of Price Communication, edited by Timothy Coombs and Sherry Holiday. So the first step here is talk about we want to input the data, right? Either struct data, like structured means that it's already struck there, right? Like we can collect the billing address or payment amount or RP. It's something already been there. We don't need to classify it, right? So it's struct data. And unstruct data is something like we need to put them into the different layers, right? For example, we can collect the individual's action and comments and the likes and the retweets, right? And further like put them in a struct way. So the first step I'm calling is about for data mining, right? Like we can get either struct data or unstruct data from different parties, right? Like we can get the media or press release probably from online or from the organization's website or from the news database, right? We can also, because of the social media, right, or the bots, right, we can collect those relevant data from the publics, from users, right? So that's how like we put the data at the beginning. And then we can use the machine learning tools, right? Like supervised machine learning. So we can like train the model and tell the computer how to code the stances like from each party in their dynamic changing relationship, right? Focusing on like a common issue, right? For example, when the US and China, for example, right, they're talking about the Taiwan issue. So we can track how the different countries, they are talking about this issue, their stances toward the Taiwan, right, across the years or across the date, right? Based on the data collection and the supervised machine learning, we can build a database and train the computer to code it. In this way, like the output is that in the future, like we can use those AI analytics to help us to track their relationship changes or even predict what's happening. So an example here is that I use the the tool like I just introduced called COPR, contingent organization public relationships, to track the relationships between McDonald's and activist relationship from 1989 to 2015. So as you can see from the slide, right, the dots there means the coded relationship. So we track the stances from McDonald's and also stances from activists based on those media contents. So we can track it and even like track over the past like 10 years. So as you can see, right, the figure and picture shows that their relationship change actually from the competing side to the cooperating side. So it shows like the dynamic changing of relationship. And also we can, through the tracking, also try to understand why they change their relationship, right? So I hope this tool like introduce you like how we can use the COPR or even AI in the future to track the dynamic relationship using the content analysis way, right? And even like we can track how the stances were changing the relationship modes in the future, in the second stage, right? And even the third stage, and how this kind of like changing relationship are also influencing those performance outcomes. If it's for a corporate, right, we can track those stock price or word of mouth or sales outcome, and then to see how the relationship, to monitor relationship and track how the relationship may help us to make the strategic decision, right? And how it influences the performance outcomes. So this is like one of the sharing about the COPR with AI, and actually my team and I were doing the job now. So we're using the AI to track the contingent relationship between the organization and the publics across the past like decades upon like a very interesting issue or crisis. So in the future, right, I'm closing the lecture now, right? So in the future, like draw a map to share with you about the future research agenda, which is also big picture, is that I'm putting like the different types of organization in the blue area, right? And also different publics. So I suggest that like on one hand, right, we can, like some of my past research, like we can track those usage and gratification and engagement and the trust, right? We can see how the AI can help organizations to analyze the vast amount of data and help us to get the insights about the public's attitudes, behaviors, and preference, right? And see, for example, in a crisis occasion, how the AI can help the organization to quickly detect and respond to potential crisis situations, such as the negative media coverage and the public complaints, right? So this is like one dimension. On the other hand, I think as I also suggest, right, we should also build a monitor system and also track those AI crises or AI malfunctions and see the ethical consideration of AI, right? And also, as one of you mentioned about the CSR, right? How the corporate or the organization from the CSR point to take care of the society, right? So I put her like an AI mediated relating management process here, right? Like we as publics, as humans, we interact with the organization. So the relationship is always like in a changing and a relating dynamics, right? So that's my approach of viewing OPR in the future, especially in the period of artificial intelligence. Okay, so I'm going to shut off my mouth and then welcome any of your great questions, and we can start a discussion. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mitchell, you get first hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed your presentation. Lovely. So I have a question, and you may have addressed it, but I was cutting out just as you were speaking to that study that you did on chatbots and mental health. But my question was, to what extent did you control for sort of market logics, you know, and perhaps even mediatization? So I guess what's underlying my question is, to what extent are these people really happy to be using, you know, a mental health chatbot, or to what extent are they forced to do so because it's the cheapest option, or indeed the only option that fits with their limited time constraints, you know? So to what extent did you control for that with those data patterns? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you for your question. So I guess your question is about like whether people are happy using such tools for their mental health issue, right? About is that your question, or
Yeah, so in the data you concluded that they were happy, but I wanted to know, you know, in terms of that outcome, was it they were happy to use the chatbot, or was it the chatbot was their most affordable option? You know what I mean? So the bigger picture I'm getting to here is to what extent these technologies will be rolled out to replace human workers because it's cheaper, right? So neoliberalism and capitalism, you know, these businesses will, healthcare providers, you know, in America in particular, you have a very privatized healthcare system that will turn to, you know, cheaper solutions because it's more efficient in the market. But will it really be better for these people? And, you know, or are they just happy that they're getting something as opposed to nothing is where I'm driving at.
Yeah, and
yes, thank you.
if I could add to that too, you know, I think people would make different choices if they were given the opportunities. I mean, I have a friend who uses like a call-in, you know, mental health thing where she talks to a professional online, but that's literally all that she can afford to do. She doesn't have a choice of going to see a person face to face, or the time or the luxury to go do it if she wanted to when she needs to. And then the even lower step is this AI, which isn't even a human being. And so I have to think that a person given the choice, if we recognize mental health as a more of a realistic human issue, we wouldn't say we're going to solve it with AI. We'd say, shit, let's do something to give people access to mental health counseling and actually do it. So I think that, I mean, to some ways, I don't want to put words in Mitchell's mouth, but that seems to me implied here.
Yeah, absolutely. So good questions. I think yeah, in the US, our health expenses are huge, right? Like every time I have to consider a lot before I run to my doctor's office. So and also data, like in our research, like data showing like in the US, lots of people, they even like know they have kind of like depression or mental health issues, but they are reluctant to see the doctor. So on one hand, I think AI creates the convenience for people just use the tools to, you know, to take care of it. On the other hand, as you said, like because of capitalism, like people are forced to use such cheap tools, right? So in our study, we did ask people like your health insurance, like whether you have good health insurance that you can afford, like similar service. So when we are focusing on this study for our framework, we control those health insurance condition. And then we ask them like what motivates you to like either from a technological functions way or from the protection motivation way, and then how those motivations help you to seek all those forward information online. So yeah, I mean, it would be wonderful that we can look at those maybe health insurance condition, right? And check like what's happening for this group of people about their usage of pods for mental health. Yeah. Thank you.
Nobody else. Yeah, I share the same concerns that others have expressed, and of course, I realize, as we all do, I guess there's not a thing we can do about it. Like 3D printing, useful applications, but it's also used to make firearms that are detectable through normal means. And, of course, you don't care how long it lasts. You're a bad actor, you just want shot. I mean, it's there. It has to be regulated and controlled. And your attempts to, then that raises a question, and that really wasn't central to your presentation, but who is the ultimate arbiter and moralist, ethicist, I should say, on this? And we'd like to think, I'm going to make the argument, some other stuff I'm doing, that in the organization should be the public relations practitioner for some particular reasons and particular KSAs there. But like I say, one, there's nothing we can do about it. Two, other than attempt to regulate it. But like, gee, let's stop development of it. Well, that doesn't happen. It didn't happen with nuclear weapons. It didn't happen with any other, weapons of mass destruction or whatever like that. What bothers me, and again, my response is gonna just disjointed the things you've said, but what bothers me is like with the mental health. And I was talking to my benefits counselor at the university about something, and I noticed there's something available like that, and I says, who, like, I don't know, like 28,000 therapists out there. I mean, who the heck are these people? First of all, these are real people, but in mental health, like, okay, my problems are mechanical to the point that a good computer can solve the problem. Like my car isn't running as smoothly as should, and we'll hook it up to the diagnostic computer. And in one respect, that's okay, but in another respect, it takes away from this human and this moral agency. And again, what can we do about it? Nothing. And as somebody here, Mitchell, I think said, the people, be relegated because it's the inexpensive delivery system, it'll be relegated to certain sets of people. But I would, frankly, and as a personal thing, I guess I would rather talk to a dog, my dog, a good dog, than I would probably could have better mental health counseling than some computer that's attempting to present. So anyhow, just a random thoughts. Like I say, I don't say there's anything we have to do about it because we probably can't. I mean, this is a reality. It's going to be here. It's going to be used by somebody. We have to attempt to control the bad elements of it. There are going to be applications in public relations that going to have some implications, some good, some bad, or so forth. But it's just like, okay, here it is. I'm not sure, like I said, if there's a point there in my discussion, I'll let you find it. But I mean, these are just some immediate observations and concerns that I have.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your question. Yeah. You mentioned like mental health and bots, right? Like you don't want to talk with the bot. Yeah, definitely. Like it's totally understandable. Yeah. So see, that's the like it's I think an interesting topic in the future, right? We can see how people in different age, how they consider this kind of like application of bots, right, in like different areas. Like for example, based on my experience, right, like some of my friends, they love to use the bots is because sometimes they can remind you, like to help you to about the questions about your condition, right? But if you meet with a doctor, I mean, they can't, right? But a bot can. And also sometimes it's like, I guess it's because the language is used. Sometimes when I talk with the doctor or some of my friends, I try to explain something happening with their body, right? They have to listen or try to clarify the term that the doctor tried to say, right? But it's hard. But if we bot or type with someone, it's a bot, sometimes it's clear, right? like you get the term immediately and then you go to recognize it. Yeah, so I guess like that's something like the bots can give us, but again is that I guess as a PR scholar, we have a lot to do, right? Yeah, for us, I can see lots of holes there we can fill in, right? Lots of gaps, like from the moral dimension, the ethical consideration, or the CSR perspective, right? Or how the PR industry is adopting AI in what kind of ways, right? That's how like very quickly we want to like call for a paper, right? For more examination about AI and our field, public relations. Yeah.
No, that's a good, I'll just one quick response and then I'll be quiet the rest of the session here, but we've got to make sure that we do take control of this in our organization so we don't get caught like, as I recall, Michael and Marina, I think it had some papers, et cetera. Where all of a sudden the IT people are the PR experts simply because they have the technology. And so there all these messages are being disseminated by IT people, and they kind of got control of the communication function that the PR people historically, and I would argue rightly so, would have. So we have to be proactive in saying, okay, this is how artificial communication in any type of public OPR type of relationships, we're the ones who should be in charge and control of it, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's my final comment here.
Okay, Aaron, I think you had your hand up next.
Yeah, I'm a little sort of building on these questions about how, as scholars and practitioners, we need to think about AI. I'm a little concerned that our research could be used, and also building on what Mitchell was saying about it sort of being forced upon us by the market. I'm a little worried about those of us in countries with socialized medicine, where neoliberal governments will draw on our research as justification for cutting currently funded services and replacing them with AI. And I think we need to be really thoughtful about how we position our research to at least mitigate that income, the potential of that outcome. Where do you see us as a collective of scholars building some sort of framework for I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure how to phrase this. You can tell I've been out of everything for a year, but building a framework for how we position our research to ensure that that sort of thing doesn't happen, and to make sure that we're researching and highlighting the gaps and making, sorry, that's the question's a little fuzzy, but I just think that that's a topic worthy of discussion and worthy of consideration.
Yeah, yes. By the way, I love your baby. She's so good.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess your question is about we as the scholars, right, how we may tackle the things like unpredictable or the good things like AI bring us, right? How we tackle those issues. I think, right, like when we talk about OPR, right, organization public relationship, we have to, and we also talk about contingent organization public relationship, COPR, right? So I guess it already demonstrates us like the relationship was in a continuum, right? So it is changing. It is also like from one dimension or to the other dimension, right? The thing is that we want to figure out like why that's happening or how we can, for example, fix a negative relationship, right? So if it comes back to the issue that you just mentioned, is that when we are handling AI for health, right? Like we may see the very good dimension of it, then we examine it, right? But maybe on one moment or on lots of moments, we see the very negative end, right? So the thing is that we still like as scholars, we track it and maybe monitor or examine it. Or if something negative happen, like we can try to explain the reasons. And then we as communication scholars, we tell and communicate through our research and tell the policymaker or designer or different parties in the organization to tackle it. I think that would be our role, right, as a communication scholar or practitioner. So we're observing, we're researching, we're monitoring, right? But actually, we can't really just do it, right? Because we are not experts to design a bot or experts to make the policy or change the policy, right? So that would be some of my thoughts. Yeah. I think another example happened in my university now is that because recently it's very serious issue that lots of our students have mental health issue. So there are like suicides or dropping off, students, they cannot finish their assignments. So the president, the chancellor already started a task force about mental health. So they collect a group of experts like from communication, from crisis mitigation, from mental health, from students' education, right? So actually I heard from one of my experts, one of my colleagues in social work, he talked like they are thinking to build a bot from our school website. And then if students have any issues or difficult moments, they can talk with the bots. And then if some emergency happen, the bots can help to direct to the other relevant people and then try to take care of the student. So yeah, that's just some recent sharing about something happening in my university.
Okay, Nika, I believe you're up.
Yes, thank you. So as I was listening to the discussion, I guess my comment or question builds on what everybody's been saying. So like maybe what a lot of this is about is thinking through the scope of AI and the role of PR in scoping it, right? So it's not that we're just like, yay, everything is great and focus only on the good things, but we have to focus on the scope. And where I was going with that or thinking about it, it's like in the case of mental health specifically, AI replaces or displaces things that have already existed, right? So not just in mental health, but beyond that. But in the case of mental health, it's interesting in listening to the discussion as the rise of AI mental health options occur, it seems like it occurs coincidentally along with the decline in investments that used to be made in community mental health, right? So as we think through these things and how such comparisons might apply to different disciplines, maybe what we want to be thinking about is like something like mental health is super nuanced. So what are the generalities? And then what are the things that are nuanced? And what role should PR play in scoping that in the way that we describe AI and describe it in specific context? Because like if I'm having a serious problem, can a chatbot give me what I need? Maybe yes, maybe no. But it's back to that scope and nuance.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, you're asking about like a scope, like maybe our role as PR for—
Right, and how we communicate that scope of these various devices or products and services that we might engage. How do we communicate the scope, right? I guess that's maybe what I'm asking.
So you were asking about the scope of doing what? Scope of what?
Specifically, like maybe, I guess what I'm thinking through really is what should the role of PR be in communicating about AI? And so oftentimes, until recently with the criticisms of GPT and other contexts, we're like, yay, AI is awesome. It's gonna make, practitioners' lives easier. They can more easily write news releases and or let AI do it so they can concentrate on bigger and more important things. And then we arrive at the news yesterday where even Elon Musk is like, whoa, wait a minute, we need to back on AI ChatGPT. So I guess what I'm ultimately thinking about is what should the role of PR be in that, right? Sometimes my perception is that we as a field so often celebrate something, but maybe in the case and communicate its positive attributes, but maybe in the specific case of AI, we might want to be thinking through how we nuance it and communicate the scope, because AI as a solution for mental health, I'm not so sure about universally, but AI as a specific tool in specific contexts makes more sense, and certainly though not in the sense that disadvantages already disadvantaged people. So that's what I was really and wanted to hear.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your question. Now I understand better about your the situation you described. So I think I want to answer your question from two dimensions. One is that you mentioned like AI was replacing something, right? Or it was replacing the role, or like with the emergence of ChatGPT, or someone may lose their job, right? So from my point, I think is that currently still like nobody is going to lose the job because of ChatGPT. Why is because every time when you talk with the ChatGPT, right, you must realize that you have to give it the context and the content to design, and then the ChatGPT can create maybe something you want, right? So it makes our job easier, but I still doing the job, right? So if we say like human beings are going to be replaced by robots, right? I don't think in that way based on the current weak AI. We're not at the age of strong AI yet, right? So we're still on the stage of weak AI. So, and we as human beings, we are the only people who can speak language, right, in the world. So every time when we talk with ChatGPT, we have to give the input. And then ChatGPT give us some inferential outcomes or relevant content, right? So this is the first dimension. And the second dimension, I think as the communicator, our role is that, because I once started my MBA degree together with my PhD degree, right, in the University of Missouri. So something I learned from a business school is that, or from an organizational perspective, from business perspective, is that no matter what we do, right, either using AI or not, we have to meet the organizational goal or the business goal. So based on like, I think AI is just a tool to make the work like more efficient. And still we need to meet the goals of the communication goals, right? But I know there are some issues like AI crisis, right? Some articles, they already narrative it, or some and AI anxiety. Some people talk about this phenomena, right? So I think that's also another thing we as the communication scholar, or as you mentioned, the CSR, right? Like all the humanity side of AI, right? So I think that's something we can do as a communication scholar, right? From a human perspective, and then try to give our insights to the organization or give our insights to the tour designer, right? From a human perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, Dean.
I think one thing that hasn't come up on this discussion yet at all, and was kind of alluded to in some of the recent news stories, or not directly, was litigation. You know, this is more than one airbag going off, and those airbags. This is you're talking about some robot giving you mental health, giving somebody mental health therapy who's suffering from depression, and killing himself or killing others, or some horrendous thing where there's a lawsuit like nobody's ever seen before. And to me, this is an accident waiting to happen when you get into areas like that. So it's just an observation, but I'm not aware of any litigation thus far from harm that had been done by AI, but I expect it's coming. You know, me, I see it as inevitable.
Yeah, there are lots of famous bots now, like Voibot. So we select like top mental health bots based on their ranking, and then we give those people like a list of these bots and ask them their usage with it and their other relevant question with it. Yeah. So I guess next time, I guess when we're talking about those issues, right, we may like have a better understanding is that don't expect the bot too much, right? Because lots of people do not even know what depression is. So when you talk with the bot, you describe. So the bot may help you to learn more about depression, or help you, or just talk with you to relieve your anxiety. Then that's enough. So it's not like those advanced tasks like some doctors can, you know, that's not the one maybe you think about. The bot like sometimes just do the basic job, try to collect your information, and then ask your recent situation. It's not those very complex issues they can resolve. Yeah, I think we're still in the stage of weak AI, not the advanced one, right? So when Elon Musk, they asked for the petition, I think that's the worrying about those more advanced or even like strong AI that like they can develop more like human minds and then even like control their human systems. Yeah. So and when we near the end of the talk, I want to answer one question from her, because she left because but she left a message here about the use of AI in people analytics for OPR and their COPR. Please elaborate. So I guess it comes from one of my recent book chapter with Dr. Glenn Cameron about how we may use the AI solution to track the dynamic relationships. So again, in that one is that we try to tell like instead of relying on the traditional survey approach, right? We're using the content analysis or AI tracking about the media content, about the stances from multiple parties upon a common issue. Then in this way, like through tracking the stances from multiple parties, we can generate a relationship mode between the organization and stakeholders. And the AI could be used as a tool to collect the data, track the data, monitor the data, and then generate the output. So that's the one way like my collaborator and I, we develop, like we can use this innovative way as a scholar kit, right? Tool to help the practitioner and scholar to track their dynamic relationships, right? But if we rely on the traditional way, like we do a survey based on self-reported cross-sectional data, there is no way to track the changes of the process of OPR, right? So that's the beauty of COPR, and something it can be relevant with the AI tools, right? AI solution to track OPR. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I was actually just about to offer the opportunity to wrap it up, even though I had my hand up. I was going to say, you know, we're almost at time, and so I don't want to try to keep you because it's later where you are than here, and you just did that, I think. So let's wrap it up at this point, and thank you for being here. Great talk, very interesting. Obviously, lots of questions from people. So timely, interesting.
Yeah, thank you again for this wonderful opportunity. And again, is that okay? I guess like I did not show my last slide. Sorry. Yeah. So thank you everyone, and this is also my contact information. So if you want to talk with me or find me or like for more information, you can always email me, right? And you find that I always respond like super quickly. It's not a bot, it's from a human being, from Alice.
You should get a bot.
Yeah, I always like respond fast. So feel free to shoot me an email if you want to, right? Maybe collaborate or talk with me in the future. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now here, and then